Sequoia, and we just finished the Empower Her Roundtable. It was an amazing discussion on how to get women in technology, how to further deepen the pipeline, and how to get them information, access, and resources to further their careers. And it was just super exciting, so hopefully we'll see a lot of success coming out of this.
Thank you. I just want to start off by saying thank you for all of you for being here. You're all very, very, very busy women, and I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. It's something that's very, very important to me in terms of how we move forward. It's an important part of what we're doing at Ford. And we're launching several new initiatives to try and make sure that we stay in the right space and that we're making a difference.
So I just wanted to bring the four of you together to have a great discussion, a very rich discussion with Pamela. I will lead it with some questions, and we're just going to keep this as informal as possible.
In terms of actually scaling a business, I think a lot of women enter, especially the tech space, and they go after the venture capital route or they want to raise funds, and there's a certain type of business that does that. Like, you don't do that with like a small, medium business, right? Like, that is a company that you build out, you structure, it's revenue positive, and it has a certain size, versus actually trying to raise venture capital and create a scalable model that is venture backed, right? So you actually need a large market share. And a lot of people don't realize that. So they go out and they pitch venture capitalists and they're like, hey, I want to get this backed. And they're like, well, how big is the market? And how much market share can you garner from that market? And it's not big enough. VCs want to make a 3x, a 4x. In my case, my investor wants like a 10x return, right? And so he's looking at the business model and he's going, okay, how big can this get? And that's where the differentiating factor is. So there's nothing wrong with like having a small, medium business. That's totally, perfectly fine. But that's a business that's not going to be venture backed, right? So you have to be very clear about what your exit strategy is. In some cases, your business might not be ready or poised for IPO. Your business might be the type of business that gets acquired. So there's a bigger company that'll come in and say, hey, I can use this technology, or I can use this audience, or whatever the business model is, and then acquire your business and bring that under their umbrella, right? So it's the knowledge that I think a lot of our people are missing, having that assumption that, you know, oh, I'm not venture backable because I'm African American or I'm an African American female. There are cases where, of course, you walk into an office and you pitch and they're looking at your skin tone and they're looking at your gender first, but those aren't the investors that you want. You want people who are going to support you and who are going to support your business model and who are going to support your growth, because the journey is super, super hard, right? So you go after those particular investors if your goal is to be venture backed. If your goal is to have a small, medium business, you don't even have to worry about that in many cases, right? So I think it's just having that knowledge, being very clear about what your exit strategy is. Is it an IPO? Is it an acquisition? Is it a small, medium business that you generate revenue from and you just want to make a couple $1 million? Because in the venture world, a couple $1 million, you're at the beginning. Like, you're very much still in the early stage of startup, right? You're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars toward an exit. So I think that is the differentiating factor, in knowing what your goal is. What's the end goal?
You mentioned community, you mentioned programs. What do we need to do in order to not make this? Because if they're saying by 2020 that there's going to be, you know, millions of dollars pumped into tech, and African Americans are not going to be at the table unless we work on it. Like, Black women in this business, and, you know, with tech enabled and tech products, and also our young women like Joteika's cousin coming along. How do we get them into that pipeline and get them a part of that system, be a part of it?
I think, piggybacking on what you just said, that hands-on approach is so important. because I feel like you can have all the access, all the resources, all the capital, but if you don't know what you're doing, none of it matters, because you're just going to burn through capital. You have a certain runway. All of a sudden, whatever you had does not exist anymore, because you're doing trial and error, trial and error, trial and error, right? Versus having a very solid example of this is what you need to do, period. Because nobody at this table is doing anything that's unique or new, or we're all doing something that's been done before. So those examples are there. So it's finding that person who's done it. Like, I went to Black Enterprise with the humblest, like, show me how to do this. Like, how do I actually move this business forward? And they were like, let's go. Like, we're not gonna stop you from growing. Like, that's not why we're here. So my thing is having that very specific, like, if you gotta grab Joe Taker's cousin and be like, listen, this is what you need to do. These are your steps, period. Because the trial and error thing just does not work for us. Like, it just widens that gap. And we're out there just reaching and reaching and reaching, and no one's grabbing anything, right? So I think us being very open, I mean, even if we have, like, my schedule's crazy, but taking that hour, that 2 hours out of your week, even your month, whatever, and mentoring somebody and helping them understand, like, this is the structure. Like, check in with me and let me know that you've been doing that, and, like, let's have that dialogue, because it's not new. So I think it's that hands-on approach is what we need.
The conversation I'm hearing tonight is also as important as investment is the mentoring and the support around it. Is as important in terms of the success of women in tech. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you, because that's very informative.